Hello everybody, this is Maniac4Bricks Behind the Scenes with some more kind of a note-taking video, not an essential update to watch, but just kind of a thing of like, hey, I've been working on this recently and see how it evolves over time. This is not final, there's plenty of things that will change after this video, and possibly even drastically from what is presented in this video. Even since the past video, a whole bunch of things have been changing around. So, this is the Lego shed, for those who haven't seen it. It's basically a storage shed, one of four that I have in the backyard of my house because I don't have an attic space, basement, or a garage space. So, the sheds in the backyard are a personal storage system, and mostly that's the purpose that they serve, is to store things. But in order to store things, there also needs to be access to things. Some way to walk through the shed in order to obtain whatever is in there, even if it's to just go through it, pilfer it for some things, and then leave. Or it's something that I need to retrieve from the shed to use somewhere else. And it could be any number of things, but Lego and Nerf are definitely having their own place in their own sheds. And it's always been a struggle. It's always been something that I have been single-handedly taking on, and all of these have been single-handedly doing these projects myself. But trying to find a way to make the sheds more pleasing while still being a good storage space, and being able to come out here and utilize them instead of just groan that, oh, I gotta find it in there, and then it's gonna be a whole avalanche of things falling on top of me, like actually happened earlier today. And a bunch of times where it's like, I need to find something, and it'll take too long, so then I do it in a hurry, and more things are falling over each other, and it's not really pleasant. Let's change that. We need to fix that. There's a bunch of different ways that I've been considering over the past year of trying to fix that, arrange that. Some spaces that I've tried to organize, and then they kind of teeter and fall apart anyways, even out of my own hands. So that's unfortunate. But one of the things I've been trying to do is thinking, what if I had a building space out here? I have a lot of Lego, whether or not it's organized in different bins, and it'll be easier for me to build something while still being out here if I just had a table and some little area to organize pieces and build something, instead of always having to come back out here, retrieve something, go back inside where the Lego room is, in the house where it's nice and insulated. And it's a little bit of a larger space, but also it's a space used for other things, and it's not all access to all Lego. That's a very difficult thing to do, and even before moving here a couple of years ago, that was a difficult thing to do back then as well, was having access to have every Lego piece within reach. So, what's the best solution? I'm not entirely sure what that is, and I've been just kind of playing around different options. So one of the options, like I said, is to have a building table out here. So that way I can build stuff while I'm out here. I already have access to pieces, and then I could bring that finished or mostly completed project inside and keep touching it up or doing whatever else I need to do with it. And that could go with other things. It could go with Lego sets. It could go with really anything on my mind. It doesn't even have to just be a custom build of any sort. So, let me walk you through what I've come up with so far. Originally, the idea was to have the table on this side of the shed because it's already facing a window, so I don't have to worry about things that will go all the way up to the ceiling. I'm always going to need some area above a table space anyways, so this would work just fine. The window here would help because it would give me some natural sunlight, as well as providing, that area of light up here. And I do have a whole bunch of these other LED tube lights that I could fit across. So another one could fit in that space for later in the day just fine. The problem is, the table that I had an idea of putting in here was always going to be too big. I had several different tables that I was going to try with it. Some of them would be too deep, even if they wouldn't stretch out all the way. Some of them would stretch out a bit. It wouldn't be that deep, but it would actually get in the way of the door, so I'd probably most likely bump into it while walking in and out of here all the time, or every time, I should say. So I thought, well, maybe this space isn't good. Maybe I need to move this somewhere else. And I was going to try to move it to this area, but then I thought, well, if I need to access other things, it might be in the way, having a table there. So what if I tried just the adjacent wall? And that's what I have set up so far. So this is building off of the other corner of the shed. I'm not entirely sure if I'm in love with it, though, because even as it is right now, yes, it's not finished, but there are other things that probably could work better with that kind of setup. I mean, in that area of the shed, originally it was stacked from floor to ceiling with boxes. And there's a lot of those boxes that are sitting right behind me right now that need a new home, and they either have to go back in here or they got to go in another shed, which is already going to be a difficult task on its own. So why not just put them back in here? I'm not really benefiting from any of the space up there. Like I said before, I wouldn't need to have I'm basically blocking off what could be good storage and stacking area if I put the table on this side, because I wouldn't have a lot of things on top of this, except for, I don't know, posters or something, but I don't need to decorate in here. It needs to be a storage unit, and now it's becoming too much of a building unit. Not to say that I can't move the table back here. It would basically... I could fit it back here. It would just wedge out a little bit from this side. Maybe I could put some sort of marker here so that way it's not going to be in the way of anything. But I also would have to be sure that this is a good walkable area for me to walk inside of here, across, and then into the table space. Basically a U shape. And that would also mean, you know, how the rest of the boxes are going to go around here. Already as it is, it's kind of an L shape walking in here, because you have walking in forward and then making a right turn. You do have the access to everything around the left side and in front of me, so that's perfectly fine. I like that. I like where that's going. And this used to actually be near the windows, but I don't know. And also, I realized having the table where it is right now, with that thing being here, it's like, oh, that's good. It'll utilize the space. I couldn't put any of these over here because it would get buried. And it would be very hard to actually access any of the drawers if they were facing out from that direction. If they were facing out from this direction, I wouldn't really have a lot of space being used here. It would still be a little too open. But then when I actually put the chair in here, you can kind of see already, it kind of squeezes into the space. You have this little bit over there that's being in the way. You got a little bit of that. So you kind of have the chair just kind of wedged in to this one particular spot. So by sitting at the table, if I have to reach over here, I might have to lean and reach to get to any of those drawers, which is not favorable. And that's not even talking about the empty spaces in between these, because, well, just the way that these dividers are made, I couldn't really fit two of these side by side with each other. And because there's empty space in between these, I could easily see myself getting frustrated that I'm losing pieces in the corners. Now, I've already taken out most of the wasp nets in here. I mean, I've already sprayed them, like, at the end of the summer, so that's not a big deal. I still have a few more of them that I need to brush out, and I've brushed out a lot of dirt and everything like that, so that's not really a big deal as far as the pieces getting lost, but still... It's going to be on these little corners, and it'll be hard to get to, and have to move a bunch of stuff to retrieve them, depending on what the piece is, or for what project I'm building. So it doesn't seem like a very favorable option if it's done in this orientation. But it wouldn't really clear anything up if I did it on this side. It would still have some of those problems, especially just with the way that the shed is made. It's still going to have those gaps I would need to fill in somehow, or maybe some sort of ramp to put at the end of the table so it rolls back to me, or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. But I don't know if there's anything better I can do, because these things are just a hair too wide to fit inside of these kinds of frames. I mean, they would work fairly well if I could put like 2 or 3 of these up here, but I've tested it, and even without putting nails on there, just wedging this into that space, I would need to either sand down the sides of the wood or the sides of this thing in order to actually fit into place. But I'm not even sure if it would even fit over there. I'm not even sure if that would even work. It would be great if it could, but I have my doubts with it. If I just live test this right now, I can just measure this with one hand while holding the camera in the other. That's just under a foot width. And for this space here, if we're accounting for that piece of wood, it's 10 inches. So with the wood, it would be almost the same, but it would also have this as a barrier. It would have this as an obstacle, because there would be a whole row or a whole column that would not be accessible. So that wouldn't really work so well in that direction. Not entirely sure what's going to happen with this, but I'm going to keep trying other things. I may move the building table aspect of it to another shed. There is room in the Nerf shed technically. I just need to move some stuff around, ironically, to make that work. But it may be more feasible, especially with a lot of these kinds of bins. And then I could turn this back into just being stackable storage bins and having to label them. We'll see.